Hello, everyone. It's time for our next episode of It's Your Time to Shine, a podcast about being a mom in a modern world. How are you, Lisa?
I'm good. How are you doing, Jaspreet?
I'm doing great. Another day, living the dream.
Well, I'm glad you're able to do this today because I know you have a lot going on. It might get a little noisy later.
Yeah, it will probably get a little noisy. I'm sitting in like a common area, but it's pretty quiet right now. But it's possible that people may come through, so I'm sorry if that's going to be a distraction.
Nah, that's okay. I don't think anyone's going to mind. That's what it's all about, being a working mom. You just make it work.
That's true. Good point. How's the preschool drop-offs been going?
So much better. Thanks for asking. So much better. Now she basically pushes me away, which is awesome. I love it.
Yay, that's so great.
Last week I was talking to the teacher for a little bit longer about potty training and stuff, and at some point she's like, "Why are you still here?" And she took both her hands and pushed me out. We all just started laughing, and I'm like, "This is awesome. Bye, see ya."
It's like the one moment in your life when your child pushes you away and you're really happy. You're like, okay, they're in a good place, right?
Anything to make sure she has a good day. You know, it's not about my validation. I'll go home and sulk, that's fine. But I know that she's having a good day. And then here's another thing. At night, we always do this thing where we talk about our favorite part of the day and just what was the best part, just to kind of relive it and think about memories and stuff. And she always says, school, even the day she doesn't go to school. So,
oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, she loves it.
Is she able to remember? Do you think that your child is actually able to remember more than like what happened an hour ago?
Yeah, you know, that's the weird thing. And I'm not saying I think it's normal. Everything with her is normal. She remembers everything. This morning when we did this, when mommy gave me a hug, she remembers everything. Yeah. She's got a really good memory, and I think it's age too, because, you know, she's so, you know, she's a sponge, right? But she may have her dad's memory. I'll go ahead and say it, because Samir has ridiculous memory to the point where I'm envious of him. I wish I had his memory. So she may have her dad's memory awesome. Because she remembers everything. Yeah. She remembers everything. So she may be a toss between her age and her genetics. Yes.
Oh, that's so interesting. I like that you do that. I need to do something like that with my kids, because I was reading this article about how if you express gratitude and like write in a gratitude journal or just write down things at night, you just are more likely to be happy. It was one of those studies where they like look at what people who are just genuinely happy and positive, what things they do. And they were like, here's one thing that was similar with a bunch of people they wrote down in the journal. And I am grateful for things, definitely feel blessed. But to physically write it down, I've never done that. And so I might want to try that with my kids. My problem is I don't really tuck them into bed.
I don't actually physically write it down either. I've been told to write it down, but I don't, because, you know, my handwriting. So I wouldn't be able to read it again. But I do a mental scan. Every night before going to sleep, I count my blessings and I fall asleep that way. That's been one of my little falling asleep tricks. So that's worked well.
Oh, that's really cool. So when you do it with Alyssa, maybe it would be cool to like either record it, like a voice record.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea. Right now what I'm doing with her, I never thought to record it. And I'm a video person. Never thought to record, because, you know, I'm actually living the moment. Crazy notion. But still, I need to record that. That'll be good, because I love the way she talks about her day. It's adorable, and it'll, you know, she'll grow out of it. Not grow out of it, but she won't have that young, cute voice. That's all.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. And I think I like audio a little bit better than video, because of the reason that it's less, like, you can really focus on what the person's saying rather than what they look like.
No, you're right about that, because you're only using your hearing senses, so you're more likely to just kind of be in the moment.
Okay, so we should both try that out and see how it works.
Yes.
And then we can discuss it next week and see how the kids liked it, what their experience was, and how that would work. You know, my oldest lives in a frame of mind right now. She's 13, where she's like thinking about things from like from a social media perspective. She's not on social media, but obviously she's exposed to it.
Right.
And so everything with her is like as though she's hosting her own personal YouTube channel. Like I'll say, hey babe, are you hungry? Yes, Mom, I am so hungry.
Oh my
God.
I'm
famished. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could really go for a snack. Hey guys, let's see what's in the fridge. And I'm like, okay, can you stop please? And she'll like, sure Mom. My mom wants me to stop. It's really funny. So I wonder how she would do if she knew she was being recorded, like if she would answer questions differently. I'm definitely going to try it tonight.
Have you looked up and see if there's a drone floating around? You know?
That's not the kind of surprise that I want to show up to.
What about social media? Do you let them get on social media?
No social media for them yet. In fact,
That's
I
great.
was just thinking about that.
That's actually probably something you're really thinking about, because I don't have to think about that right now. But I've been thinking about that a lot. What would I do at this time with my child who's so exposed to social media and iPhone, smartphone? What do you do? I'd like to know. What are your thoughts having a 13-year-old?
So that's interesting that you would say that, because we just last week got smartphones or iPhones for both my two older kids, my 11-year-old and my 13-year-old. And the primary driver was that my 11-year-old was starting to walk to school and going to middle school. Okay. And so he was going to walk to school and then walk home. And so I wanted him to have a phone so he could text me and say like, hey, I'm leaving now.
Right.
The school is really close. It's not about the time that he's walking, but he does have to cross a kind of like a semi-busy street where people drive really fast. And there was a kid who was on a bike that got hit by a car last year, and so I kind of freaked out, and I was like, okay, I want him to have a phone.
No, that's understandable. That's
yeah. So we got one of those tiny iPhone 5s, like it's like a couple models older, and it's small and it can fit in his pocket. But the rule with his phone was that there's no games on it. It's just a phone. He can text and he can use the phone, like he can use the phone call capability, and that's it. And then I have the GPS on it, so I can kind of like stalk him if I want to during the day.
So does he have access to the internet?
He has access to the internet. It's all like safe searching right now. So I have all the child search stuff on. Okay. And then he can't download any apps without my permission. So he's on there as a child setup.
Right.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. I'm not going to pretend that there aren't ways to get around, doing things like that. But I feel more comfortable with it. And then since we were getting him a phone and he's the middle child, I felt compelled to get my older daughter a phone as well, because it's like, she's 13 and she's been saying for the last 3 years she's the only person that she knows that doesn't have a phone. And for the longest time, Lisa, I'm like, oh yeah, really? Okay, good story.
Yeah, I was the only person who didn't have my kids or my Converse.
Yes, exactly. So you and I have been there. Right. But I will tell you that I have been volunteering at the school whenever I can for many years now, and I think it was true. I think she was the only one who didn't have a phone.
Wow. But that's another whole question I have for you. Like when other parents and when they make these decisions and you're friends with these parents, when you guys have different ideologies.
Yeah, it's really difficult and you got to stick to your guns. Budum and I, the good thing is that Budum doesn't fold. He's so strong in his beliefs that when the two of us are like, no, our kids don't need a phone, he won't, he doesn't budge on it. I think it could be hard if you and your partner aren't aligned on your views, because there are so many different parenting decisions out there. And I will tell you that we've gone to dinner with friends or had people over, and their kids will have their devices and they'll all pull them out, and my kids will just be sitting there like, see how unfair this is? They have a device and I don't.
Oh my God, this is something that's really been bothering me, because it's happening a lot, and she's only 3. I don't like devices during dinner. That's just something like, this is social hour, and I also believe very strongly in connections and being social with everyone around you. It puts you in kind of a weird situation, because I could say, no, my kid does not watch TV at dinner time, but then, I don't know, I feel like I'm bringing the energy down too, so I'm trying to have a balance. So when you're amongst other people and they ask you, I'm going to say it's okay, because I think it's not worth having this argument in front of the children. And I'm not deferring parenting, but I feel like as she gets older, I'll also be able to explain more and more exactly how we do things in this house. And I guess use something like that as a learning opportunity. Well, we're going to respect them too, and make a decision accordingly. But that doesn't mean it's the norm in our house. So I think just communicating that to your child after the fact.
So one of the things that I will say is waiting until your child is older to explain things to them. I don't think that's the right way to go, because habits form all the time and children learn really fast. So, and you know this because you have daily routine things that you do with Alyssa, and she already has fallen into them and she knows.
You know what I mean? But like, I will explain it to her in wherever she is, like wherever she is developmentally. But I think that the true explanation and understanding will happen as she gets a little older.
Yeah, that
of
makes
what
sense.
we're doing.
Right, right. I know
Yeah.
you'll have age appropriate conversations for sure. But I guess I have a lot of people who are telling me that, oh, it's okay now. I'll explain to them when they're like 5 or 6.
Oh no, I
It's
don't
like,
agree with
but
that at all.
habits form
Yeah.
all the time, right? So I'm just kind of
Right.
reacting less to you and more to people that I'm surrounded by that I just don't agree with that.
Right. No. I agree with that completely. I don't
Yeah.
think you should keep from explaining. Even today, anything she does, I will explain. This is what you did. This is why we're upset. This is what's happening, so that she understands it. Whatever percent she understands, at least she knows I'm explaining it to her, and there is some processing going on.
Yeah, totally. And another thing is, I agree that it's hard to figure out whether you should say something or not, because I think as women, we always feel like we don't want to be called bitchy or like for someone to call us names because we called someone
Right.
out. Whereas men don't really
Right.
worry about that. In fact, Bottom will say
at all.
things like, yeah, no, that Bottom will say things like, oh, well, if everyone jumps off a bridge, are you going to jump off a bridge? Like he'll say those kind of things that like
Right.
my parents said to me when I was a kid and I thought they were corny. And he'll say it and the kids will be silent or their mouths, their
Right.
jaws will drop open and they'll be like, oh yeah, good point. And it is a little unfair because I feel like if one of us says it, sometimes there's a stigma that, oh, she's like overreacting as a mom. But if a dad says it, no one's going to question it.
And this is the case everywhere, and not just parenting, at the workplace, at school, everywhere. The
Yes.
difference between men and women. Hillary Clinton was actually talking about it in an interview yesterday.
Oh, really? So, and it's interesting too because it's like we don't want to be a snitch or we don't want to be judgy or we don't want to
Right.
speak up for ourselves. And
Right.
sure enough, you're right. You hit the you hit the nail on the head. Hillary Clinton. We saw that happen with her, right? It's like, are you being too sensitive or are you being too like aggressive? And so
Right.
I don't think since we're both married, I don't think there's anything wrong with like using your husband as a scapegoat if they're willing to do that. My husband's not willing to do that. He's like, you should say something, And so I'm like, okay, fine.
Right.
But I think I can see Samir also kind of being like, fine, I can say something if I want, but you should break that, right? Like you should break that stereotype.
Well, Samir is actually very, he's just a nice guy. Alyssa's already seen that now. She takes advantage of his niceness.
Oh, really?
Samir's just a nice guy. Like, he gets frustrated because she doesn't listen to him. And she listens more to me. And I told him a lot of it's because she's 3 years old. That's it. She's 3 years old. That's what 3-year-olds do. But he gets really frustrated. So, and I understand because there are many times she'll listen. She mostly listens to me, and he doesn't understand why she
Well,
doesn't listen to him as much.
Another reason, and this is also because she's 3 years old, is like if she thinks that she can get away with something, just like a
Right,
puppy,
right.
children are like puppies
Yeah.
in a way, then she
Right.
will, right? And so
Yeah.
kids are freaking smart, man.
And that gets to a whole other thing, though, because a lot of it is also that, too, and also because I'm with her more. So Samir is compensating, which I don't blame him for, but he doesn't see her as much, so he doesn't want to spend the time he's with her yelling and screaming or just being upset with her constantly. So he's likely to be milder or not really enforce consequences, whereas
Yeah.
I am because I'm with her all day.
Right. And so you have more like, you have a built up account of like kindness with her that you can use a little bit more.
Right.
You have a higher balance on that.
exactly.
It's really
Exactly, I do.
interesting that you would say that because I don't know why this just popped into my mind. I remember years ago, someone in our family had difficulty with their child not listening. And same situation as you and I have talked about. Like I'm a working mom, and so she was a working mom, long hours, had a long commute, and she was home. She would come home and she had like an hour or two with her child, and she was like, I don't want
Right.
to spend the hour that I have disciplining. And
Right.
I totally
get that.
I totally get it too, and I felt for her, and I didn't say anything.
Right.
I didn't push back because I didn't have kids of my own. But now I look
Right.
at how that child behaves today,
Right.
and I feel like, you know what, part of the root cause is
Yeah.
that time, like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whatever it was, and
Right.
that sets the tone for their life.
Oh, it does, definitely. They will continue, and that is actually the reason I decided to stay home. And I know I'm not saying staying home is the way to go with your child,
Right.
but for me personally, I noticed that I was not slacking, but I was definitely a lot easier on Alyssa. And back then she was still a baby, but I still noticed you know what I mean? I kind of look at myself and I have an honest relationship. And I'm like, honestly, I'm going to be milder and let her get away with more. That's
Right.
part of it. I'm not simplifying it, but that is part of it that I'm going to, and I know that about myself. So let's see what I can do, what we can do as a couple, what works for us based on my
Yeah.
personality and the personality that's coming through, that I'm starting to see, of my child, because it is different. Every
Totally.
child is different. Every situation is different. But
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
definitely one of the factors. I mean, it could just be me being completely insecure and I needed to be home with her for validation. But that is pretty much one of the reasons that I decided to stay home.
I think because what I've heard from you is like because you are wiser and older, have more experience, you realize that this time is fleeting, and you wanted to take advantage of it. That's what I recall from our conversations. You're right, not everyone has the ability to do that, but I would be really curious to go back to that person and say, hey, remember that conversation? She probably doesn't even remember having that conversation with me, but maybe if I were to remind her and say like, hey, would you do things differently? Maybe they would do
How
things
is the kid
differently.
now? I'm guessing they're
like,
much older.
I want to say like 15 or 16.
Okay.
And, and still same behavior problems, same like lack of respect and that kind of consistent, I guess entitlement or privilege is probably the best 2017 word that describes it. Those words didn't really exist before. But
entitlement.
yeah. But you know what I mean? And so it's like,
Yeah.
what decisions do we make now and what's the impact? We don't know. We make decisions constantly every day as parents. We have no idea what they're what impact they'll have on our kids. But
I was just thinking about that today, actually, when I went to drop Alyssa off, and I really like her teacher. I think her teacher's hilarious. I want to be friends with her, So when I go there, I just stay there for a little bit just to talk to her. And at some point, me and Miss Amy, we were just kind of joking and laughing around. At some point, I looked down at Allie, and she was just kind of quiet with her head down. And I was like, oh my God, I've been ignoring. And I overthink things, but I was thinking about it today. And I was like, oh my God, did I ignore her? Or did I not let her play with her friends because she was waiting to go play with them? And I got more consumed. So I was like, God, every little thing does matter. Like, I'm going to point that out to her because that's who I am in case I did do it. So, like, hey, mommy didn't mean to ignore you for that long. I know I'm overdoing it, but my point is I'm piggybacking off of you that every little thing does make a difference.
Yeah, I don't think you're overthinking it. I think you are teaching her to wait. You've got to wait sometimes.
That's true too, right?
You know what I think I think might be happening though, and this is really cute if this is the case, is she has her time with her mom and then she has time at school, and the transition time normally is pretty quick, right? You drop her off and then she goes into the next transition. While you're there, she's kind of like, okay, who's like, what zone are we in right now? Maybe, or maybe she's like a totally different personality at preschool and she has like two worlds and she doesn't want her worlds to collide, so she like waits for you to leave, and then
that's so funny.
as soon
That's
as the door
exactly
closes,
what I think it is.
she's like, all right guys, welcome to my channel. She's like, Bavneet, hey guys,
No
welcome to
mommy
my
here.
channel. Mommy's not here,
Right.
so let's get this party started.
Well, she does have to. I'll tell you one thing. She's completely potty trained at preschool, but she's not at home. You tell me if it's two different personalities. I'm like, really? No accidents today? They're like, no. And I'm like, seriously? I'm like, I look at Allie, and then she's like, so can I poop in my underwear? Like, no, you can't. She's having a hard time letting go.
She asks permission.
She's being funny. She knows she's not supposed to, And I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to poop in my. She likes to poop in her underwear. That's kind of the negotiations we're going through right now.
Oh,
a lot of
gosh.
yeah.
You would think that would be really uncomfortable.
She doesn't care. That's what made potty training so hard. She doesn't care. We did the whole code red like about 2 months ago. Code red, take her out, put her underwear on so she's wet and she's uncomfortable. Nope. She just was uncomfortable for a while. She'd either be uncomfortable for a while and didn't care, so she wouldn't tell us, or she would tell us she needs to go potty right after she peed in her pants because that would make me change her underwear. So she was very.
I don't know what Code Red is. What's Code Red?
Oh, Code Red is the 3-day boot camp potty training that people like me, when you have kids over 3, do. So
wow.
basically, for 3 days, you have her at home, keep her in her underwear, or Nangu Pungu, which Nangu Pungu means, naked. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did. We did Nangu Pungu for 3 days, and that works well. The Nangu Pungu works well because she's really good at holding it. The teacher's like, she can hold it on commit, no problem. The UTI becomes an issue, but she ends up releasing it. Anyway, she's fine now. She'll go on the potty. Only thing is I'm not able to separate the potty from from a reward. So every time I want a lollipop, and I was like, you're not getting a lollipop every time you potty now. So we got to think of something else. So just to teach her it's the norm now. It's not reward based all the time. She needs to just go in the potty. Period.
That is so interesting. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, she's in pull-ups nap time and nighttime, but that's it right now. So.
Do they have like a code blue, which is like a CrossFit potty training?
No,
this
that's
really
funny. You know, I actually we just called it Code Red. I don't know what it actually is, 3-day boot camp. But it didn't even work for us that well. It just slowly worked. She started, it slowly worked. For her, it was potty training rewiring. That's what I told her teacher. Like, she gets it. She just likes to go in her pull-up. That's all. She likes it. She just likes it. I kind of get it. I mean, if I could go in my Depends, I'd go. But anyway.
So. See, I wouldn't. But, this is how you know kids are different, because Bavneet who is my oldest, was the easiest to potty train. And she potty trained like around a year. And I
know,
I
you
was
told
like really
me.
hesitant to think that it was real. I was like, maybe this is just like a stage, and because everyone was like, no way, impossible. People were like, that can't be possible, whatever. But she did really quickly. And then we went to India, our first trip to India. She was 3, and it was my first trip to India essentially too. I think I'd gone when I was like 3 or 4 as well. Didn't remember anything. And she went into the bathroom, and you know how the bathrooms in India are. You have to squat. They're actually cleaner than a public toilet, in my opinion, if you look at like the germ level,
because you're not touching anything.
But it is like an overwhelming experience, right? Because people don't have the best aim, and things happen in the bathrooms in India. And we go in, and she goes, and we go in, and she's just like, no, I don't have to go anymore. It went back in, and she just turned around, and I was like, that's like, you should go, you can't hold it. And she was like, no, I can hold it, I'm fine. And I was like, oh my gosh. And Bottom had said to me, like, she has your genes, your like germaphobe genes. So some kids just have it, and Allie clearly doesn't.
No, she doesn't.
No, she doesn't. So she's like more genetically fit to live in the world that we live in now, because being a germaphobe is not a good thing.
I'm the opposite too. Honestly, I think I used to be better. Now, ever since Alyssa, I'm like, whatever. Samir and I both, we're just, I don't know why. I guess because I don't see the bacteria. So it's not like I'm dirty. I'll wash my hands obviously after the bathroom and all, but I'm definitely not a germaphobe. So.
Yeah. All right, Lisa, well, let me know more about how the potty training journey goes. And if you decide to start up like a trademark, some type of like Code Red, Code Blue, I think
I should.
I think you could like work an exercise regimen into the potty training plan. That's totally up your alley, and it would be useful.
That is funny. That's a good video. It's a good video idea. We could start with yellow, which would be you before 1, but then we go to Code Red for me.
So. And then there needs to be a Code Brown for like kids who have accidents, and the dads don't want to clean up the mess, so they just end up throwing their clothes away and buying new clothes. That's a real story I'll tell you about another time.
Okay, yeah, you tell me next time. And I'm on it. I'm gonna start writing this down for either a video or like a little blog. It's funny.
Oh, it's awesome. Good. Okay, cool. So now our listeners, once it's done, we can tell our listeners about where to find your completed video, so they can kind of connect all the dots. And we will thank everyone for listening today. And thank you, Lisa. I always love starting my mornings off talking with you about adventures in parenting. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening to It's Your Time to Shine.